Ranking 100 different roller coasters. No easy task, especially after riding over 500 around the world over the past 7 years. These are some of the best, and I'm still just getting started. I'm not going to preamble too much here, as this is part 2 of a 7-part series, so if you haven't yet before you watch this part, head on over to part 1, where I discuss the coasters I ranked from number 100 to number 91. Consequently, in this video, you guessed it, we're going over the coasters ranked from number 90 through 81. Number 90 is a spot where I'm already discussing my third coaster from a manufacturer, the wonderful Rocky Mountain Construction. Let's talk some Jersey Devil coaster at Six Flags Great Adventure. The very first RMC Raptor to feature a more extended layout. I actually had the opportunity to ride Jersey Devil on its media day back in June of 2021. And while I'm not a huge fan of the Raptor restraints and overall prefer the more compact layouts, Jersey Devil still offers a mostly glass smooth experience, some really good airtime moments, a fantastic stall, one of my favorites from the manufacturer period, and some really solid whip. And yes, I slightly prefer Jersey Devil to its slightly longer twin in Wonder Woman at Magic Mountain. Why? Well, it's closer to home. I've ridden it way more, and will obviously continue to do so. Plus, I like orange over yellow. Otherwise, they're basically the same ride, but hey, every now and then, biased opinions are the difference. Let's dive into the 80s with a coaster that looks like a dive, sort of. At number 89, I have Hang Time at Knott's Berry Farm, the first entry from Gerstlauer. This is a manufacturer I usually don't care too much for, but Hang Time is one of the rare exceptions. First off, I love the colors and theme of this thing, really putting you in a true California mood. And despite a little bit of shakiness, it is a Gerstlauer after all. This Infinity coaster has an awesome layout. A wonderful hanging drop where you absolutely feel that steepness. Some fun inversions, a phenomenal airtime moment that honestly catches you off guard, and a spectacular light package at night that really makes this thing pop. Hang Time is underrated and deserves some more respect. A really good coaster that complements Knott's lineup very well. Number 88 has us crossing the Pacific yet again. We'll be doing that a few times this series because, well, visiting Japan was a thing for me, and yeah, it was pretty awesome. However, there was a significant coaster we rode that was not too different from a popular ride we have here in the States. I'm talking about Acrobat at Nagashima Spa Land, a B&M flying coaster. It's a clone of a ride that may or may not show up down the line, and I may explain the differences then, wink wink. But I've always been a huge fan of these flyers, mostly for the super intense element known as the pretzel loop, an element that truly needs to be ridden to be properly explained. But it's such an incomparable feeling to anything else, and I'm obsessed. It's a very smooth overall experience with that legitimate sense of flying. Its only real knock, well, we have one at home. And I absolutely felt less, I'm actually in Japan, guys, than many of the other coasters we rode there. Time for number 87, and you know what? Those flights to Japan, they can be pretty expensive, man. So let's stick around for another one while we're here, shall we? Despite all the coasters here in Japan, there's hardly any of the wooden variety. Just 3 overall. Jupiter at Kajima Kojin is one of them though, and it's thankfully a really solid, massive wooden coaster. Opening in 1992, this Intamin has almost a mile of track, making it the 5th longest wooden coaster in the world. That might mean it has some dead spots, which admittedly, it does, but Jupiter also has some great air throughout, including an awesome pre-lift section that can compete with any other in the world. It also features a wild ejector moment coming up the first hill that is actually quite shocking. And oh yeah, now is a good time to mention that if you have stunning views surrounding you, oh does that matter for me big time. And Jupiter's surroundings certainly aren't shy in that department. While far from being an elite Woody, Jupiter has enough to make this list, and a trip to Kajima Kojin well worth it. Coming in at number 86 is a roller coaster that, if you watch my daily reviews in 2023, you may be surprised to see here, as I gave it a truly awful and unfair score. Maybe the most what was I thinking score of the entire year. It's redemption time for Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. Now, I still don't think it's one of the best B&M hypers, but it's far from the worst. Hopping on late last summer gave me some of the best rides I've ever gotten on it. Still extremely smooth, despite being 25 years old. Great airtime hills as you're flying through trees, and a fun, semi-intense helix, along with a thrilling return trip. The night rides, again, especially with those trees, are what really told me how wrong I was initially. One of the best hyper night rides out there. There are many hypers that do this model a lot more justice, but Apollo deserves its due and is very much welcomed on this top 100 list. It's that time of the list where I get to once again profess my love for all things launches. And one of my favorites, at least in the western part of the country, is a ride called Full Throttle, the third coaster from Six Flags Magic Mountain to make this list, and the second premiere from that park as well. I truly believe Full Throttle is one of the more underrated coasters in the US. That 0 to 70 mile per hour launch is no joke. And then right into that huge 160 foot high vertical loop, one of the world's largest. This is legitimately one of my favorite inversions that I've ever experienced, especially with the mountainous California scenery being upside down for such a long time. You also get a little backwards section, another launch. Full Throttle deserves its flowers, guys. Yes, the ending with the way too soon trims coming over the loop is for sure a buzzkill, but it doesn't stop me from making Full Throttle my favorite coaster from Premiere. California seems to be the home for a lot of these number 80 through 100 coasters, for whatever reason. So let's do another one, guys. The fifth so far. Let's go over some Emperor at SeaWorld San Diego, the first B&M dive to make this list. What makes Emperor stand out is its lack of a mid-course brake run, which helps the trains fly through the course after the main drop, something that's for sure lacking in some of the other dives. Emperor's drop, like most dives for me, is really good. Not as good as some of the others potentially coming on this list, but I overall love that feeling of hanging there, and especially in the back row, you get some excellent airtime. Emperor's strongest point, though, in my opinion, is the beautiful panoramic view you get of San Diego and even the Pacific Ocean as you wrap around the top of that lift hill. Beyond stunning, probably a top 5 view of any coaster I've been on. And yes, as mentioned already, that matters to me. Emperor is great. Maybe not my favorite dive, but far from the worst. Alright everyone, is it hot take time? I think it is. Buckle up, folks. Some of you aren't gonna like this one. Hopefully others will understand too, though. Number 83 is Millennium Force at Cedar Point. That's right, blow up the comment section and my DMs if you want. I'm here for any and all backlash. But remember, still have Millie over 449 other coasters. I do like this thing. The drop is fan-flippin-tastic. It's an Intamin Giga. Of course, the drop is great. The views, superb. That first turnaround, gray out city. And then I liken it to Test Track at Epcot, because it's just some turns at a really high speed, which, hey, I like. Just if that's all you got for me with 6,600 feet of track, you're not making any top 25 or 50 list for me. That much track, I need airtime. And sorry, I find it very limited after the drop, other than maybe one decent hill. I 100% get how Millennium Force was probably incredible when it opened in 2000. But it's 2024, everyone, and unless you're heavy on the nostalgia, which, hey, with my Disney love, I guess I can't be too hard on you, it's just not a top 25 coaster anymore. Are the pitchforks and torches away yet? I hope so, because I think I'll be more reasonable sounding to the masses for number 82. where we have a coaster that's very similar to one already mentioned in part 1. Here we have Mamba at Worlds of Fun, another Morgan Hyper with almost the exact same layout as Steel Force, my number 99 ranked coaster. The first half is pretty much spot on. Other than a slightly better view with Mamba, you can see the Kansas City skyline from it. The floater hills are fun, the helix is just if not even a little more intense than Steel Force. Then you hit the brake run, and this is the major difference. No trims, baby. At least that was the case in my ride in 2023. That made for the second half bunny hills to have some wild out of your seat madness. All the laughs on this thing, making Mamba easily my favorite of the 3 traditional Morgan Hypers in the US. Let's finish off part 2, taking a trip away from the US, but hey, not to Japan this time. Let's finally talk some Europe, everyone. To the great country of Germany for Colossus, a gigantic wooden coaster at Heide Park. One of 4 Intamin prefabs around the world, this one was the very first when it opened in 2001. And thanks to a recent retrack, this 164-foot tall Woody is running as smooth as ever. In addition to the retrack, they also added this incredible looking figure that shoots fire. I mean, badass is an understatement. And the first drop and floater hills absolutely remind you of another Intamin prefab that may or may not be talked about later. Unfortunately, that's where the comparisons end, as the last 2/3 of Colossus are sadly a bit underwhelming. Colossus is a very, very fun coaster, but I'll definitely admit my initial expectations were hopeful for a top 50 spot, not number 81. We are just 20% of the way, everyone. 80 roller coasters still to go. But we are only getting more thrilling, more exciting, and crazier with every video. Your love and support is massively appreciated always. Part 3, number 80 through number 71, coming up soon. Love you guys.